Hey guys, well, it's been almost a year of ownership that I've had this Santa Cruz HighTower 2024 model. And I figured, being that it's almost a year, it'd be the best time now to give some feedback and review of my thoughts on this mountain bike. So this is a 2024 Santa Cruz HighTower. It is what they call the S trim. So you have some upgraded components as you move up the different trim levels. This is a full carbon frame. And in terms of the color, this was a new color introduced in 2024, which is the cardinal red. It's a matte finish, and the lettering, the Santa Cruz, I don't know if it's coming through on the video, is a subtle pink. So it has a nice contrast between the two. And I must say, I've gotten quite a few compliments out on the trails. So in terms of components, it is a 29er, so both front and back are 29 by 2.3 tires. For the rims, we have the Race Face AR30s, both front and back. It is, as you would expect, a tubeless setup. For the tires from Santa Cruz, it comes with the Minion DHR2s, front and back. Yep. And it handles extremely well. What about the drivetrain? The drivetrain is a SRAM Eagle GX 50-tooth high gear, so it's a 10 to 50. But the derailleur is the derailleur that has the capability of going to the 52-tooth rear cassette if needed. The 12-speed SRAM Eagle GX, I've had it on a previous bike. It performs extremely well, shifts very smoothly when coupled with the SRAM GX chain. For the chainring up front, a SRAM Eagle again, and the cranks are SRAM Eagle as well. In terms of the pedals, I went with a blue pedal on mine. Obviously, pedals are up to rider preference. I prefer a composite pedal. Other things to take note, obviously full suspension bike. This is an extra large frame as I am 6'2" and it fits me perfectly. For the suspension, for the rear suspension, we have a RockShox rear suspension, and for the front, it's a Fox 36 front fork. For the seat post, it's a dropper post. From from Santa Cruz, this bike came with the RockShox Reverb hydraulically activated dropper post. Do your own research. It has a lot of bad reviews. It's not a reliable dropper at all. So I opted to swap that out at the bike shop and go with a 1-up dropper post. For the saddle, it's a WTB saddle that comes from the factory. As we move further up onto the bike, on the handlebar and the stem is a Bertec. The handlebar is an 800 millimeter spread. For the grips, I swapped out the Bertec that came with the bike, and I go with my favorite Ergon GA3 ergonomical grip that I really like. And when I bring the camera in closer, you'll see what those grips look like. Other changes I made from the way the bike came factory, I put on the Fox full fender on the front. Coming backwards, I put the 1-up chainring guide and chainring smash protector. So those are integrated in as well. Other things to take note on the bike, new to this year, Santa Cruz introduced a glove box, storage area into the center section of the frame. It's a plastic cover that removes with a click, and you have quite a bit of storage in there. And Santa Cruz includes a couple of, I guess you could call them tool bags inside that you could put your different various tools, a spare tube, and there's even enough room in there to put some clothing, not much, say a jersey or a rain jacket. For the brakes, it is a SRAM Code R 180 millimeter, both front and back. I find they function very well. However, I would have liked to have seen probably a 200 millimeter disc up front, But on all the riding I've done, so far the 180 millimeter discs have performed very well, and I haven't noticed any issues with brake fade or lack of braking performance. Of course, I've made some additional cosmetic changes, as you might see, because it doesn't come that way from Santa Cruz, and that's just small things like the seat collar is a deity, as well as the stem cap and riser. I went with the blue from Deity, as it matches up very well with the blue on the crowns of the Fox front suspension. And with the pedals that I went with as well, it matches very nicely with all that blue, even with the blue on the RockShox rear suspension. Now, what about in terms of riding performance and setup? Obviously, everyone's different, and depending on your build and your size, you're going to set your bike ergonomics up differently. For myself, the extra large frame, like I said, really fits nicely. I was on the fence between a large and an extra large. I test rode both, and I felt that for me, having that bigger cockpit spacing on the extra large was more beneficial than having a more compact, we'll say more agile bike. For my setup, like I said, tubeless, I run Stan's tubeless sealant in both front and back tires. I go by Stan's recommendation for this tire size, 110 milliliters per tire. For my setup, I run a front tire pressure of 26 PSI, and for the rear, I run 28 PSI. And so far, I feel I'm getting good rolling over obstacles and landing on the jumps. Now for me, this is my first full suspension bike, so there was a learning curve to it. But really coming from a hardtail after so many years and coming onto a full suspension, it was definitely a game changer. A lot of the abilities and skills that I learned on the full suspension really translated over to the full suspension and really opened up my riding style and allowed me to be a better rider, I find. The bike itself handles amazingly, especially off the jumps and on the landings. The suspension really absorbs it. As far as suspension pressures, I have them set up to the recommended pressures as by RockShox and Fox, based on rider weight with gear on. So for myself, that would be around roughly 200 pounds of weight. So I have my pressure set up accordingly. So let's come in a little closer and look at the different components. Here are the Raceface AR30 for the rims, your 50-tooth cassette SRAM Eagle with the GX derailleur. Moving up, you could see the one-up components chainring guide and smash guard. And for the pedals, the composite tag pedals. Coming further up, we have the rear suspension, which is our RockShox Deluxe, our Deity seat collar, our one-up dropper, the WTB saddle. Coming further up, here is the glove box that I was speaking to. It's a plastic cover that you could open with a clip. And inside, like I said, you have a lot of space, and it comes with 2 tool bags from Santa Cruz. And here you can see you have a lot of space. It travels up the whole center section. And your 2 tool kits as follows. You have a zippered pocket pouch. I put some tools in it, but would be good for a spare tube. And then a tool bag with Velcro that when open up inside, you have various pockets and areas to put different tools. As we come to the cockpit, here we have our Bergtech RW alloy handlebar, 800 millimeter. The Ergon GA3 grips. If you're like me and suffer from wrist pain with standard grips, these are a game changer. Our Code R brakes. Our Bergtech stem. Coming to the inside view, our one-up dropper lever. This dropper activates so quickly. Coming to the front, the Fox full fender, our Fox 36 front suspension, fork with dampening control and lockout. On the other side is where you would put your air to adjust your pressure. On the front wheel, we have a quick release through axle with more dampening on the bottom of the Fox suspension. On the rear, no quick release, just the regular through axle. And here's the 180 millimeter SRAM Code R brakes and caliper, both front and back. So there you have it, guys. Just a quick walk around and some feedback regarding my experiences thus far with the Santa Cruz HighTower S 2024 model. Like I said, if you want to go and get this bike, I highly recommend it. Test drive them first, obviously. Make sure you're sized appropriately. Once again, I'm in between 6'1", 6'2", and the extra large for my reach and my size works perfect for me. My recommendations would be going with a 1-up dropper over the RockShox Reverb hydraulic dropper. But again, that's personal preference, but do your own research, your own reviews online like I did, and it'll point you in the right direction, and the 1-up is the right direction. So thanks so much for watching, guys. If you have any questions or comments regarding this bike, definitely leave them down below in the comments. And I'm looking forward to hearing back from you guys. Thanks a lot for watching.